Southwestern School District, all learners have a voice and choice for self-directed, customized learning supported by a caring and progressive network of educators.
Hello, we are the Mannheim faculty, and we are excited to be able to talk about the ideal learning experience that we are experimenting with and trying to implement this year related to guided reading. Last spring, we started meeting as a group to talk about what should guided reading look like to tie in with customization and personalization. So we started brainstorming, and we said with a small school of 250 children that we felt that we could look at guided reading being a school-wide guided reading approach for 1st through 5th grade. We definitely made this a team approach and developed a guided reading plan that would help us to really meet the needs of our students. At Mannheim, we try to have an all-hands-on-deck approach to guided reading with all of our adults, support staff, classroom teachers, our specialists, all working as reading facilitators during that guided reading block of time. We're all here today to be able to share a little bit about that process.
What we do is use Fountas and Pinnell reading system assessments, and last May was our final assessment from last year, and then we do it again 4 times a year. And once we start our sweeps, we call it sweeps, it's a 2-week period where we have para-educators trained, all of us as teachers are trained to do the running records. Each child's pulled individually, and we look at their comprehension piece as well as orally reading, so we know accuracy, and then they have some independent reading as well. When they're doing their assessment, we're recording it and comparing it across level. We're no longer by grade. So
do that. We then correlate that level to a grade level band so that we can see if the learner is on grade level or if they're below or above where we expect them to be for that point in the year. However, just because a learner was instructional or even independent at a level U on that assessment, that does not mean that he will be placed in a group with other learners who are reading at the level U. We look at different things such as their accuracy, their fluency, their pace, their comprehension, and that's within, beyond, and about to make those decisions. It's kind of a puzzle that we work out when we're forming our groups.
We're focusing more on their specific strength or needs within those groups. It's not just one group of T's and one group of U's. They can be combined. And when we look at comprehension, and we'll have like groups where they have like 5 out of 10 in one group and like 7 out of 10 in another group. We look at their accuracy and base the groups also on that. So we divide the groups up even further, like even especially fluency too. We'll take a look at fluency and focus on that with certain groups.
And then not only do we use just the data that we have on one assessment, but we will also talk to teachers and other instructors who have previously had the child to really get their observations and what they're seeing in the classroom, not just looking at one piece of data. And that might kind of tell us where children need to go in specific groups or what their strengths and weaknesses are. We really are focusing on the learner and what the learner needs and how they learn best. So for example, if someone would be in learning support or have certain behavioral needs, they might need a specific program. They may need to go to a teacher that specializes in a specific area. So we really focus on the child and where they would fit best.
So each teacher has 2 groups, and in each group they have maybe about 6 to 8 learners, and they work with each group for 30 minutes, making up a total of an hour. In the beginning of the school year, 1st and 2nd grade did 3 groups per their time, so they had a smaller group of learners just because their learners couldn't stay in a group for the 30 minutes at the beginning of the school year, but working them up to that. Now they are doing the 2 groups with 30 minutes each. And then while the learners aren't in their guided reading group with their facilitator, they're doing any choice that they have. So certain teachers might do MobyMax, silent reading, working on work that they had assigned from their guided reading teacher. a free write, reader's theater, any of those things that you might be able to enrich, and they get to choose those.
One of the things that I have really thought has been positive about this change has been that the flexible, how flexible the groups have been. I had an individual child who really did not fit into a group, and it was not waiting until the next sweep. It wasn't even waiting until the next book was over. We could immediately get him into the group that he needed. And I love that we can go over the different grade levels because sometimes I felt when I did guided groups just in my own room with strictly second graders, I sometimes felt as though my higher learners did not necessarily get as much time as my lower learners did. And so here I feel that there's a lot more equity in the amount of time that they are within guided reading groups. And
we start with our early learners with the early reading intervention system, and we also have the level literacy intervention system, which spans all the way up to 4th and 5th grade level. So it takes us to our highest. We have the SOAR program and book closets, which are, as we move into our higher level kids, they do literature circles and Socratic seminar.
And our texts are a lot lengthier and require a lot more of written response, so they do need a lot more of that time in the higher grades, a lot more of that independent time to be working on those tasks and preparing for group.
We wanted to have some type of communication tool between the teachers. So at the primary level, we use a quick snapshot, which has the strengths and goals of our learners. And we quickly just pass it along to the homeroom teacher, and we do this about every 2 weeks.
And in the upper grades, we have levels N through C as a recording sheet, and it's very nice to have a consistent form to communicate with teachers. It's linked directly to the pathway as well as our report cards, and really provides that consistent way to see what students are struggling with and what they need more help with, as well as some of those areas of strength.
As a teacher who's been teaching for a long time, I've never had students from outside of my grade level coming to my classroom for guided reading. It's always been the students that were within our class, or occasionally students that were in the same grade level. So it's been a real kind of different mindset when we looking at students from different grade levels and making them feel inclusive in the classroom, whether they were from the grade level below or whether they were from the grade level above. We really found out that once the first session took place, that this was no longer an issue, that the students knew that they were in the group that they were supposed to be, so that it was at their level and that it was appropriate for them.
There's also been a risk for several of our staff members as well. The specialists are involved in teaching during the guided reading block as well, and that's been a risk for those of us. I'm a specialist myself and have been having to teach these guided reading blocks. And at first, it was very intimidating for us to go into something that we did not know before. But it was very helpful to talk with the other teachers and feel comfortable being able to do it. And now that we've started it, it's been hard at first, but pretty easy now.
Some of my students who went to classrooms that were of a different grade level were really at first intimidated by going up with the big kids and feeling like they weren't smart enough to go there or that they didn't belong. And especially when they went to do the written responses, they felt like they didn't have the skills that were appropriate to respond in the way. But with practice, they were able to see that they did belong there, that they were able to do those tasks. And it became kind of like a seamless transition then, that it didn't matter what grade they were going to or what teacher they were going to their group that was appropriate for them.
We found that constant collaboration is necessary in order to have a successful guided reading block. We are having learners come to us from different grade levels, so they're coming from different homeroom teachers. Some of them need reading specialists, some of them have learning support. So it's really necessary to collaborate with everyone and do.
Well, along with meeting the needs of learners, we've been able to use different staff members and their strengths in the collaboration. For example, for those learners who are more kinesthetic and learn through active learning, we're using our phys ed teacher as a way to do some active learning with some different word games, with some activities that are geared that they're physically manipulating words and physically searching for words so that they can use their learning, their hands-on learning, to manipulate words and to understand word patterns as well. So using the strengths of our specialists along with using the strengths of our reading teachers has been really important.
As you can see, this has truly been a team effort here at Mannheim. I'm so proud of every reading facilitator that we have working with our learners during guided reading. It's just been a fantastic journey. We continue to refine, we continue to revise. We will be meeting throughout the year. We meet monthly now so that we can make sure that we're doing what's best for our learners. We are truly building a culture of reading here by having guided reading as an entire Mannheim block. That's a very exciting message for us to send to our learners. And lastly, we're breaking down the barrier of grade levels for our learners, which allows them to move along a continuum of learning that makes sense to each individual learner. That is exciting. That is a step closer to customizing and personalizing learning for every learner at Mannheim.